Well, good evening, everyone, and welcome to the undisputed heavyweight champion of the world show made for the fans by a fan. I'm your host, as always, Richard Tiemann. This is Football and Nonsense. Well, we're here to put a bow on another fan show week. Of course, my weeks are a little different from yours. Some of you are, 7-day-a-weekers where you don't have a set schedule. You don't have set days off. You work when the man tells you when to work. And for my fellow retail folk and brethren out there, I feel your pain. Retail, 'tis the season. If you're a Christmas person, you probably don't work in retail because it would extremely sour the experience. But if you don't like Christmas, then you probably hate it even more if you work in retail. I did 2 Black Friday stints in retail, 3 actually, I guess, if you want to get technical about it, and I never want to do it again. I really don't. And the fact that major corporations and chain companies and whatnot they continue to push that particular envelope and line back as far as it used to be just Black Friday. And then we introduced Cyber Monday, right? And then it was Black Friday, but it was a lot earlier, and then, hey, it's not even Friday anymore. We're all the way back to where we're opening Thanksgiving night. And then they're open earlier on Thanksgiving night, and then Thanksgiving, and then they're just having sales everywhere. I don't like it. I understand, but just because you understand why something happens doesn't mean that you think that it necessarily should. They're opening because if their competitors are closed, they can make more money. So, in that regard, it makes sense. But man, that is just some kind of bottom of the barrel, scum of the earth greed thinking right there. And it's probably why we're in a place that we are as a world, culture, society, and Americans. So if you go out and you consume, you're helping perpetuate the beast known as greed and big corporations. The people that use the excuse, well, they're open, so what good does it do me if I don't go? As so many other people. Yeah, but it's like when a person... Here's a great example for it. It's like when Michael Jordan got cut from his high school basketball team, or when a journalist will say that someone won't amount to anything, like when Bill Belichick, that journalist, said that he wasn't going to become anything for leaving the job with the Jets. It's like, we understand that people are going to say things like that. People are going to do things like that. You don't want it to be you. You don't, because you can't ever live that down. I mean, every story of struggle and overcoming great obstacles, the inspirational stories like of Oprah, of Michael Jordan, and countless others, there was a person somewhere along the lines, maybe even multiple people, that said, you're not going to be either what you want to be or anything at all. And, of course, you look back, how much has the world changed, right? We're conditioned that everybody's a winner now. We give out participation trophies and such, and we want to just pat everyone on the back and on the shoulder. Good job. Bowl season for the college football is a perfect example of our celebration of mediocrity. So, times have changed, yes. Back then, teachers... they were more than happy to tell you that if you were a problem in class, you probably weren't going to amount to anything, because it was like their scare you straight tactic that cops use. So for a person to tell someone you're not going to succeed, you're not going to be what you want to be, you're not going to be anything, one, they probably had cause for that. And the cause was that what they saw meant that was probably justified in their mind. But I caution people, be careful who you say that to, because the right person will use it as motivation. They'll carry that chip on their shoulder the rest of their lives. If they don't amount to anything, you're safe. But if they do, if they become a Michael Jordan or a Bill Belichick or an Oprah, oh man, you are going to be in that acceptance speech. I tell you what. So wow, we got way off the beaten path there. Going back to my point, retail friends, I feel your pain. This is not your season. Just because a business is open on Thanksgiving or, God forbid, Christmas does not mean that you need to go out there and give them your business, okay? Don't be that person. I got back to my point on that, I think. Yeah, okay. Moving on. Happy birthday to Rob, a.k.a. Leveland Browns, because it is his birthday today, and he has become a very good friend of mine. He's been on the show a couple of times. Got a great show for you tonight. Pete Arico, fantastic artist and sculptor, and a WWE fan. Well, at least I'm going to say WWF fan. As our conversation would have it, he was more of a fan of back in the 80s and 90s, which, you know, can you blame somebody that was? I don't. That was the golden years of wrestling. I started watching in the 90s, and I loved it. The Rock, Triple H, that rivalry, that was fantastic. The Undertaker and their American Badass gimmick, yeah, that wasn't too great. That might have been the turn of the century, 2000, but late 90s, early 2000s, that was when I really jumped into professional wrestling fandom, and I've loved it. But the 80s were the golden age, where you could have a guy hold a title for months, years even, and nobody cared because of what they represented. Hulk Hogan represented America, and they put him in feuds with guys like the Iron Sheik, Vladimir Kozlov, or whoever it was back then. And, you know, they had the U.S. against everyone, us against the world. And it was a great time. Great time to be a wrestling fan. Say your prayers, eat your vitamins. Ric Flair was a great heel back then. And you also had, of course, The Undertaker was a great character who made his debut in the late 80s. But the 90s, man, Shawn Michaels, Stone Cold Steve Austin, more of The Undertaker, Triple H, The Rock. Oh, it was so good. If you were a fan of the Attitude Era of wrestling, whew, oh my. So we talk some wrestling about what got him into sculpting and, of course, being an artist. Go and check him out on Instagram before his segment comes up here in about the next 10 minutes, and that is Thejokr914, but Joker without the E's. So the Jokr 914. And he does great one. His most recent one is Bobby the Brain Heenan. Holy crap. Just the detail on that, the jacket that he would wear and how he was able to capture that. Incredible stuff. So let's go ahead and get to the headline, shall we? We'll get through that. And the headlines are that we're wrapping up this week, but next week proves to be just as good with the lineup. In case you missed it, you probably saw it on Twitter or Facebook, as was announced, that I have 3 guests so far, pending more because it is the week before Christmas. So I will be doing my Christmas specials. And last year I did one special, right, for each holiday. And sometimes the holiday snuck up on me. But this year I've been doing kind of a whole week for that week. So Thanksgiving week, we had a whole week, Thanksgiving themed. My birthday as well, because it's the week after Thanksgiving. And then, of course, it kind of kicks off Christmas time. And so I did a whole week, with a stellar lineup to celebrate my birthday week. So next week we will have a Christmas theme going through Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday show. I have James Fuller. He is the new head coach of the other expansion team. One of the 3 in the National Arena League, the Maine Mammoths. So he is going to be joining me. We'll talk about some Maine football. How crazy is that? Billy Back last week, of course, did mention how Maine has fantastic lobster. And if it was up to him, he might have been the coach of Maine just for that reason. So on the tour, I might have to make my way up to Maine. Never been to Maine. I've never been to, when it comes to the East Coast, because I did a trip to WrestleMania 28, and my buddy was living in Jacksonville. We drove from there to Miami. But how I got there was I took a Greyhound from here up in Spokane, Washington, the state, not the capital. So if you think all the way up here in the tippy top of the U.S. map, where we basically wave hi to Canada, I went over through Montana, down through Wyoming, beautiful country, Colorado, and then cut across. I think we just missed Texas, but we went through, Oklahoma, Missouri, and then Georgia, Alabama, or however it goes down there, and then finally Florida. Coming back, though, we went sort of up, and we went through South and North Carolina, and then cut back, and then I went through Ohio, Wisconsin, Minnesota, and then back through the Dakotas and Montana again. So Maine would be, it's the furthest on the East Coast that you can go, but even if I make it out to Boston for the Mass Pirates, that would be the furthest East Coast-wise that I've ever been. So very excited about the potential that the 2018 Fan Show Tour has. Just got to figure out how to fund it and execute it. Also, we will have pro wrestler Peter Avalon, who you may have remembered from a few weeks ago, was in a squash match with the Bludgeon Brothers, but he was more than happy to be a guest on the show. He recently did an independent show with a group of wrestlers up in Alaska, where Logan, you guys know him, one of my UFC enthusiast friends, is up there, and he got a chance to meet him. So got my contact information, said, yeah, let's make it happen. So he'll be on. And the return of the Grinch. So excited about that, because last year we had the Grinch on, and it was so much fun. And so we will have the Grinch on again next week, probably Thursday to close out the week. Catapults you into the Christmas week, and I hope that you all have a very Merry Christmas. But Thursday night football tonight, and let's take a look at what the matchup holds for us, shall we? It is, it's not one that I'm particularly interested in, like in any way, shape, or form. It is the Denver Broncos and the Indianapolis Colts in the house that Peyton Manning built. I don't have a horse in this race. I don't have any kind of, I don't. Like, I mean, what do you do? So, it's football though, right? We're going to do it because it's Thursday. After the show, I'll probably go to the gym, and I'll probably not even pay attention to the game. But that's what's happening tonight. And then this next week, we did our fan versus fan show pick'em with Coach Link last night, so that was a lot of fun. Haven't really had a whole lot going on in the world of NFL or other sports headlines. So as far as what we've got for you, that about does it. Got several matchups that are going to be marquee matchups this week. Very, very excited to see how those play out, because the big ones, the Chargers and the Chiefs, that's probably going to determine the West. What was another one? Well, I guess you could say Philly versus New York. If there was ever a time to put in your backup, Nick Foles, it's against the Giants. So we'll see how the Eagles look with quarterback Nick Foles returning to under center. He was their quarterback before that once upon a time. I don't know if you know that. And then Green Bay, Carolina, the return of Aaron Rodgers. How will that one play out? LA and Seattle, and then, of course, New England and Pittsburgh. Those are your games of the week. Ryan actually did his weekly article for the games to watch. That'll be up on thefanshow.com later on tonight or even tomorrow. And then Omar Cook submitted another article. He always does some fantastic writing for thefanshow.com. He did Who Are the Cowboys Without Zeke? So that's an article to look forward to being on thefanshow.com in a little bit. So with that, we are at about 18 after the hour. So we're going to go to a quick commercial break, and when I come back, my interview with Pete Arico, the Joker, and his amazing sculptures of WWE superstars past and present. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back with more after this.
This is The Sheet.
Gets me all revved up. My face is now red. My ears are just freaking boiling.
He's so raw that Scott hates him.
Yeah, he had 51 touchdowns, 4,900 total yards.
I know y'all like that, but I got to run. And only in Alabama that could happen, I have to say.
They're so good, man. They would win the Big Ten if they were in the Big Ten. You could be doing something vision-based in front of you and reach down and grab a handful of insane goodness.
Give it to him. Kudos. I'm clapping like a golfer. Very good, Johnny. I'm proud of you.
Wow. You guys agree on something again? I'm very impressed. You ever had a bad week? Just you walk outside, step in a puddle, like right when you walk outside. I mean, how does a puddle right outside your house? Or you stand on the curb and somebody drives by and splashes water up on you? Or it's just raining on you, not anyone else?
I will tell you before you go any further, I cannot hear Chad when he speaks.
Good. You're listening to the sheet, man. I don't really know what we're doing.
Every Saturday morning, 8 to 10 a.m. right here on WBLZ Sports.
Whether it be your industrial, commercial, or residential needs, Gen Service is the electrical contractor for you. The Gen Service team has the expertise, commitment, and educational years to help you solve all your electrical concerns. They have you in their best interest with helpful suggestions to accommodate your every want. Give them a call, no matter the size of the job, at 740-438-7173. Mention WBLZ Sports, and you'll get a discount. That's Gen Service, 740-438-7173.
This is Nick Ciccarelli, the mad scientist of sports. Join me and Dr. D, Derek Jones, live every Saturday night, 10 p.m. Eastern Time, 7 p.m. Pacific, for the Mad Scientist Sports Lab. The big intellects, the experiments on the chalkboard, and the guest subjects will be rolling in. Mad Scientist Sports Lab, only on WBLZ Sports, where we got balls.
Doug Peffer Painting and Pressure Washing. He has over 30 years of painting experience. He's interior, exterior, commercial, or residential. Doug Peffer covers it all. Is your house looking ugh? We'll call on Doug. Doug Peffer Painting and Pressure Washing. 404-966-3361. Mention WBLZ Sports and get a special We've Got Balls discount. That's Doug Peffer Painting and Pressure Washing. 404-966-3361.
Check out Thursday Night Tailgate, where NFL legends live on. We bring you 5 NFL legends every week, sharing their stories and insights, plus our spotlight on the positive. Hear which players are doing great things in their communities. Now on WBLZ Sports Talk Radio and WBLZSports.com.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, joining me this evening is a fantastic sculptor and artist and a WWE enthusiast. It is Pete Arico. Welcome to the show, Pete. How you doing?
I'm great. Great interview. I mean, great entrance there. Thank you so much.
Well, you know, this isn't the first time I've had an artist that was also a wrestling fan on the show. In fact, that's actually how I found your Instagram page. My friend Nolan Harris at Nolanium. He's a great caricature artist, and he's had a lot of his wrestling caricatures that he's done featured by the different wrestlers. And I was browsing through, and I saw your page and the sculpt of Bobby the Brain Heenan, and it was fantastic. I mean, that takes some skill. It's one thing to draw 2D on a flat piece, but you actually sculpt these things. Like, how long does this process take you?
Well, you know, they take a long time. They you're talking each sculpture, and they average probably about like anywhere from 6 to 8 inches tall. So they usually take about a month to create, and that's not even including like the concept sketch first. So it could take a month to 2 months to make. It's a long process.
Yeah, I was gonna say, because I saw the first one, and I went and I scrolled through, and I saw that you had concept art, the sketch that you do, and then not only do you sculpt it, but you also take the time to paint it and everything. So start to finish, what would you say your ballpark time is? Like, if you're really taking your time and getting the detail down from the concept art to the final brush stroke of the paint or whatever finish you put on them.
Well, you know, the artist's mind is a strange and scary place. If it's something that I'm really into, let's just use my favorite wrestler and one of my favorite sculptors, Roddy Piper. That took me about a month because I was really into it. And if you're talking about someone says, "Hey, can you sculpt my dog?" You know, it's boring. You know, sometimes I'm not really into it and don't put that much time getting it done. I'll do a little bit here and there. It could take a couple months. But a lot of things are factored in. The paint job, especially the Bobby Heenan one, that one probably took me about 2 months to make. And a lot of it was because of the paint job on the jacket, because he wore the sparkling sequence jacket. So we're talking like each individual sequence had to be hand painted. So yeah, it's very time consuming.
Yeah, and I'm actually looking at the Bobby the Brain Heenan one right now. You're right, the detail on it is amazing. Now, you have several different wrestlers that you've done, Undertaker, Hulk Hogan, even Zack Ryder. I thought that was a great one as well. How do you pick the pose that you ultimately want to sculpt?
Well, a lot of it has to do with being a big fan. Back in the 80s, the old cartoon show Hulk Hogan's Rockin' Wrestling. I started with that and looked at a lot of the original concept sketches from the actual Zeke Entertainment that created the cartoon. And I'll use that as like a guideline. There's a lot of influences on the sketch and the poses. It's a little bit of Hulk Hogan's Rockin' Wrestling and, believe it or not, a little bit of Batman the Animated Series. Very Art Deco straight line type of sketching. So, the poses, a lot of that will have to do with, whoever I'm drawing, like what kind of, or sculpting, what kind of attitude they had. Zack Ryder's character was a very, I don't want to say arrogant, but very flashy guy. So, the process of doing Zack Ryder's was a lot of fun because I had a lot of communication with Zack Ryder on different sketches and different poses, and I waited for his approval, and he would give me some ideas and a lot of spitballing. That sculpture itself was a lot of fun, and dealing with Zack one-on-one doing that was a lot of fun. Great guy, too.
Yeah, and I've seen several on here that look like, pop culture. You've got Tommy Boy, obviously, Clark Griswold from Family Vacation, a scene from The Shining, The Blues Brothers, Beetlejuice. So many of these, you got to really dedicate yourself to the man-hours to put into some of these. Beetlejuice alone, probably the color, by itself would have consumed, I can't even imagine how much time. So is this just a glorified hobby, or is it an actual profession? Like, do people submit orders that they want, and you do those? You just happen to feature on your Instagram the ones that you do in your personal time of, like, pop culture or wrestling?
I want to say it's more of a glorified hobby. A lot, yeah. First, I have to say big shout out to my wife for being patient with me on this because I love her to death, and she knows I'm deep in thought, and she gives me my time to work on the sculptures and all that stuff. This started a long time ago, and I'll try to make this as short as possible. But it started a long time ago when I was diagnosed with a form of cancer that I beat. But back then, for those that have gone through cancer would know, when you go through chemo, you don't really have much energy to do anything. So being out of work and all that, and, being big into comics and collecting action figures and whatnot as a kid, I just felt, why not try making my own? And I picked up a magazine about sculpting, and it started as just a hobby. My first sculpture set was for my mom. I made her every single Fred Flintstone character from the show. We're talking all the way from the newspaper boy to the guy who blew the tail on the bird when it was time to quit work. And it started as just a fun little hobby. But then social media came around, and each sculpture I did, I learned more and more how to hone in on my profession. And at this point, it was still just a hobby. But then, again, social media came around, and I thought, well, why not share these pictures with the world? And then messages started rolling in like crazy, people wanting to buy them. And now we're dealing with something different now. As we stated earlier, each one of these could take an entire month to 2 months to create. So it was hard to come up with a price on what would be justifiable for my time and supplies. Some people were receptive, some not so much.
Mm-hmm.
So then it turned into trying to find a way to have these mass produced so that the price can be much cheaper. And things got more spiraled out of control in regards to trying to get this mass produced. Dealing with a toy company is almost, dealing with the CIA. I mean, they don't want to respond to any ideas for fear of being sued if they already have that idea in progress. They won't deal with you unless you have a degree. They won't deal with you unless you have what's called a toy broker, which is almost like an agent. So that got a little frustrating as well, that I couldn't even get a response from any toy company. I emailed pictures to several toy companies, even to the point of emailing WWE headquarters. At this point, it seemed like I hit the wall, and these things were not going to be mass produced, and then we just reverted back to this just being a hobby.
Yeah, and I certainly understand the struggle there. I mean, to try to get a hold of the right people alone is like a series of emails that you send one out and you get a response that you need to contact this person to then contact that person and that person. So I understand and I respect the struggle and the process, and I'm sorry that it hasn't, become what you would have liked. I think for me, if it were my work, because where I'm at, we actually had a guy that would buy up a bunch of those figures that you see of NFL players doing a single pose of like catching a touchdown or throwing the ball, and they have that square piece of platform turf below them. And he would buy a bunch of those, and he would, clear them all off and wipe everything down so that they were a blank one, and then he would hand paint. I mean, we're talking about fine, tiny little detail of players from local teams around here. And he, I remember reaching out to him and asking him what the cost of one of those is average. And when he told me the price, I was like, holy crap, we're talking about an action figure. But then he, was kind enough to go through what the process is, how much time it takes. And then I understood and respected the value of each one of these. So for me, if it were me in your shoes, I say, if there's something more of a generic line that people wanted to submit photos or something to have you do, I would first take one and put it up for like an auction on eBay and see just how much people are actually willing to pay for these, and then maybe ballpark your price off of that.
And that's where I went. Trust me, I went in like several different directions with this. Tried the bidding on eBay, and actually recently a friend on Facebook, a big shout out to Johnny Boxer, who got me hip on a site that will actually raffle any kind of wrestling custom works or original sculptures. And just, I thought this would be a grand idea, other than just charging someone, I don't know, like $200 for a sculpture. People can just buy $1 raffle ticket. We just recently did it on one of my sculptures and made enough to compensate the supplies and my work. And the gentleman that won it only paid like $7 for it. So, I tried several different options. But again, it's very difficult. People are frugal with their money. I get it. Mm-hmm. But, on social media, you also have haters. There was another gentleman that made a comment that kind of shied me away from even selling them at all. Some people are kind enough to share my pictures and say, hey, hit this guy up if he wants it. And, another guy chimes in and says he posts a picture of a Jimmy Superfly Snuka action figure. And he said, I bought this on eBay for $25. How dare you charge your sculpture for a set amount of money? to which my response is, if you want something mass produced in China and there's like 5,000 of them in existence, sure, $25 is adequate. But I mean, if we're looking at a one of a kind piece that myself is making, you have no right to make that kind of comparison. So yeah, it's been a very difficult road. And like I said, I'm not out to to kind of, rob anybody of their money for my artwork. I mean, if people are interested and they like it, they're we could haggle on the price and whatnot. But, again, I just want to revert back to it just, being a hobby. It keeps me calm. Everyone else has got their fixes. They drink, they do drugs or whatever. To calm down is sculpting and just being in my own little world.
Yeah, I can respect that, and I think that it's a great hobby to have, just for the simple fact that there's so many other things that you could be doing that are so much worse, and you're not doing any of those. But yeah, people are they'll have their opinions, and they're going to appreciate or hate it. And I think for artists, for whatever people believe falls under the category of artists, so many of them just want to be acknowledged and appreciated for the work that they do. You create one of one, a one-of-a-kind piece of art for something that you're a fan of. Have you ever run into any trouble from WWE or anywhere else as far as like a cease and desist because of the likeness, or is that kind of have you managed to stay out of that area?
I have managed to stay out of that. A lot of my wrestling sculptures that I do, I guess that would go under the line of character likeness, because I would take my own artistic take on them. So their likenesses are not 100% accurate. But then there's ones that are very accurate that I don't sell for fear of getting any kind of cease and desist order. I mean, I'm not doing these to start trouble,
Oh, yeah.
But, the outcome of all of this with the social media and everything, I look at it like this. My artwork has made me a lot of friends on Facebook, very, very nice, kind people. And some of the nice, kind comments that they make that, looking at their sculptures brought them back to a better time when they were children and they watched the cartoon show of Hulk Hogan's Rock and Wrestling, or I made a sculpture of Gizmo from Gremlins that people were like, that was my favorite movie. To me, that's where the payoff is now. One of the biggest achievements for me on this was getting to know the family of Roddy Piper. I mean, as a child, he was my hero. And when he passed away, I reached out to his daughter, Ariel, and she absolutely loved my artwork. And I sent her a sculpture of her dad. And just like I sent one to Kitty, his wife, and to Sarah and Colt's son and Colt's wife, Sarah, I sent them a sculpture as well of Roddy. And it brought happiness to them in a troubled time for them, losing their father. And for me, that was such a great achievement for me. And again, that's one of the payoffs. If my stuff makes people happy, then I'm happy. I mean, I've come to the realization that I'm not going to become some big time artist, having these things sold around the world. I'm okay with that. I already have a 40 to 50 hour job a week. This is just a side thing that I do for fun. So yeah, I mean, there's some good payoffs to all of this. Actually, also before Roddy died, a friend of mine bought a Roddy Piper sculpture and got to meet Roddy and presented it to him. Roddy autographed it and even tweeted about it. And I was tickled pink, that there's my hero, Roddy Piper, holding my sculpture. So, there's been some great stuff that has come out of this. But, again, you try and try and try and try, and then you finally realize that, hey, maybe this isn't going to go anywhere, and that's okay.
Yeah, and acknowledgement and appreciation, like I talked about, it's something that every artist strives for, and I think that for you, that's kind of where you're at. But I mean, you do phenomenal work. Anybody that wants to check out Pete's work, just go to Instagram, type in Thejokr without an E, so Jokr 914, and you can see some of his incredible artwork. Now, do you keep up with the WWE today? Like, are you currently watching? Are you going to watch Clash of Champions this weekend?
So I take a 3-hour show and DVR it, and I watch it in 2 minutes. It's it's just it's not what it used to be. I don't know. I watched an interview of Bobby Heenan before he passed away, and he said something so profound where they asked him, you know, what is the difference of wrestling today that can be, you know, that it could go back to what it was and be great. And, you know, his response was, the spirit of it is dead. The curtain is pulled back. I think once they kind of openly admitted to it being choreographed, kind of killed the sport. And it's I mean, like I said, I watch it. I don't find it very entertaining. There's some people who are going to hate that. Zach, I'm joking, Zach Ryder. I love watching for you, pal, if you're listening. But yeah, yeah, I still watch it.
Okay. Well, I think that there's a few wrestlers that I would love to see you sculpt. Shawn Michaels being one. The Rock, I think that those would make for two. You know, there's so many great poses from them. And then Chris Jericho would be another. A few newer wrestlers. I mean, down the line, you could maybe try like a Finn Balor, a Shinsuke Nakamura, maybe the glorious Bobby Roode. You know, those could be some fun ones. But obviously, you have your process and you have your niche and however you come up with the next one that you're going to do. But if you do need to try your hand at sculpting the host of a, you know, sports variety podcast, by all means let me know. I have a few poses that I could send your way for myself, including a sketch that Nolan did of me as a caricature, so that might help your concept art there.
So was that the point of this interview, was to work me to get a sculpture? Is that what this is?
I got to do it some way.
Oh, yeah. Hey, anything's possible. I mean, and actually, Nolan Ryan does phenomenal artwork. His stylization is just, it's crazy. It's mind-blowing. That I actually even talked to them once, and I told him I would even actually love to sculpt something of his artwork.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if he's got a sketch of you out there, I'm going to have to look it up. Who knows? Maybe that's possible.
Well, I'm going to have him do a specialty piece because I'm a big wrestling fan myself, which is why I wanted to reach out to you. And him and I, when we first met and talked, I had him as a guest on the show, and we talked about the upcoming pay-per-view and wrestling and what it meant to both of us. And then we talked a little later, and we were throwing around some ideas, and we came up with a pretty decent one. So we're going to see if once he's done with the Christmas workload, if he can maybe pull that one off, and then we'll let you know, because it should be a pretty fun idea that we've got in mind. But no, I want people to be aware of fantastic artwork out there, because obviously, you know, I don't even know what the group or community of sculptors is like today, but you do hands down a phenomenal job of the wrestling world, and I love talking to other wrestling fans and how sports and entertainment has inspired them, and clearly it's inspired you to the degree where you have this hobby of yours that is, you know, keeping you grounded and make sure that you keep pushing forward and that you have something that you enjoy.
Yeah, I mean, it's a difficult industry with all of the merchandise out there for wrestling, and you know, sculpting is something I'm going to do till I can't use my hands anymore. But you know, there's people out there that say, well, you should learn ZBrush because everything is done on computer now. So the art form of sculpting by hand is something that's slowly dying. Everything is just mass produced on computers now, which, you know, people do phenomenal work on that. It's just something that I'm not interested in. There's a lot to be said by doing it by hand. To me, that's more interesting than doing it behind a laptop. And that's not putting guys down that do that. It's just not my cup of tea. Yeah, I mean, and to get back with Nolan, that guy, he's such a busy guy too. I remember one time I reached out to him. I saw the character sketches he was doing, and we were kind of bantering back and forth. And I said, hey, how about doing a sketch for me? And he's like, yeah, I don't do free sketches. So thanks a lot, Nolan. Thanks, buddy. Thanks, pal.
If you're good at anything, never do it for free. That's the rule, right?
Yeah, no, I totally understand where he's coming from.
All right, well, he is Peter Arico, and you can, again, follow him on Instagram. Check out his artwork. It is amazing, especially some of the pop culture stuff. I saw that there was Doc from Back to the Future, one of my all-time favorite movies or trilogies, and he is the Thejokr Joker without the E, Jokr914. So Thejokr914 is how you can find him on Instagram. Give him a follow, give him a like, and encourage him to keep doing what he's doing. But Pete, it's been an honor to have you on the show. I really appreciate your time talking art and wrestling and how the two have collided in your life.
It's been a pleasure speaking with you too. This was an honor being on your show. It's my first podcast, so this was a lot of fun.
Well, I thank you for that. I'm definitely honored to be the first interview on a podcast, so hopefully many more to come. But keep doing what you're doing. It's not going unnoticed, and it's definitely appreciated. So, hey, you enjoy the rest of your weekend and have a very Merry Christmas.
You too, pal.
Thanks. You're listening to The F.A.N. Show, your home for all things football and nonsense. My special guest tonight, Farouk. Farouk, welcome.
He's no expert, but here's the thing. Football and nonsense is what he brings. Sports talk with a twist. It's the F.A.N. Show.
Do you know him as Kevin from the League? It is none other than very funny Steve Ranazisi.
99% of the population doesn't know who I am, but the 1% do. They yell and scream inappropriate things at me in public.
Kyle Ray. Kyle, welcome.
And I was like, wow, I think we just saw the whole Super Bowl, Phyllis. It's like that scene in The Simpsons. Like, why rent the movie? I just saw the best part.
Funny man Brad Williams.
Yeah, I'm here. No, I flew in just for your podcast. I've heard about this podcast. I've heard it's fantastic.
It's Mac and Farva, but they are my special guests tonight. Steve Lemmy, Kevin Heffernan.
I was in Mexico for 10 weeks in a Speedo. Like, that was me going to work. I was putting on a Speedo. Farva is the most fun to play, and it was a blast to do that again, to do Farva again. So then the makeup artist had to put Vaseline on your body, right? Yeah. And then put the powdered sugar on top of that. Is your name really Richard Siemens?
Listen live every Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday night on Spreaker.com or subscribe to the podcast on iTunes and SoundCloud. And we are back. Excuse me. And one more big thank you to Pete Arico, the Joker. Man, it is so fun to get to know people that excel at different areas of life. And art, fascinates me. I love it. I can't get enough. People that do art for a living, I love it. Everyone has their own unique story and why they do it. And to hear his, incredible. Simply incredible. So thank you very much again to Pete Arico. Beat cancer, doesn't have an addiction. His only addiction is the art of sculpting. Love it. Great story. Thank you very much to him. So we're going to do something that we've never done here on the F.A.N. Show before. But as I mentioned, it is Rob's birthday. Leveland Round Rob. So I don't know if he's listening right now or what. But we're going to give him a call. Yeah, we're going to call him right now. So give me just a second here. We're going to call him. I'm going to call Rob, see what he's doing, and surprise him. Okay, where is he? Cleveland, Rob. Okay. Everybody bear with me here. This is going to be fun. Please pick up. Pick up. Do it. Do it.
Hello.
Well, happy birthday.
Thank you.
You're live on the show right now.
Awesome.
He picked up.
I will let you know now. I am in my car, and I am a very angry driver. So if I happen to unexpectedly blurt an F-bomb or two, that's why. I will do my best to refrain.
Well, because you made the comment yesterday about not being on the show because you beat me by less than a point at fantasy football. And so I got on air, and I'm like, I'm going to have a little bit of time to kill after. I'm going to call Rob. I'm going to call him.
That's awesome.
But yes, this is the same Rob that beat me by less than a point because Bill Belichick just had to go for a field goal at the end there, even though he needed a touchdown and a field goal. So that, I am at home watching the rest of the fantasy playoffs happen.
Nice. By the way, it was 0.3 of a point.
Oh, was it officially?
Yeah.
Wow.
Not that I'm keeping track or anything.
That's the kind of stone cold killer in fantasy football that Rob is right there.
Well, as James pointed out on the message board earlier in the week, it's a lot easier to be focused on the fantasy league when your professional team is a flaming pile of monkey crap and is done by week 8.
Yeah, we've got not one but 2 Cleveland Brown fans in the playoffs. So right now there are, I think, 2 out of the remaining 4, or I don't know how many. Yeah, 2 out of the remaining 4. So half the playoffs are Browns fans.
There are more Browns fans in the playoffs in our league than there have been Browns playoff appearances since they've come back to the league in 1999.
Wow, there's a stat of the day for you right there. That is a fun fact, and wow, that is mind-blowing. So leave it to Rob to have one of the hottest pieces of knowledge here on the show. There are more Browns fans in the fantasy playoffs in one league right now than there have been Browns playoff appearances since they came back to the league.
Again, not that I'm keeping track or anything.
No, and your rebuilding has started a few years after the official rebuild started in 1964. So you've only been part of the long haul, the long con, the longest con of them all.
That's about the extent of it.
Could you imagine if the Browns somehow went on a full-fledged, we're talking like a Yankees-esque dynasty run where they won like 4 straight or 5 straight or 5 out of like 6 years? I mean, it would just...
Well, it would, in all honesty, it would be a nice, a full circle for the franchise because, when they first came into existence, that's basically what they were. They were the dominant team in the then AAFC, and then for their first couple of years in the NFL, long before there was such a thing as a Super Bowl, that's what the Browns were. They were the dynasty of the league, and so it would be a nice. I could happily die then if that happened.
Otherwise, you're going to be going on every kind of liver and lung transplant and dialysis and life support up until that point. And you're going to be like, if you don't eke one out before I croak, then we're going to have words.
I can pretty much tell you with 100% certainty that if I am on death's door, there's no way in hell I am doing anything to keep myself alive in the hopes that the Browns are going to win a Super Bowl.
Yeah, it was like when the Bears had that really bad run a few seasons ago. My friend posted, when I die, I want all the pallbearers to be members of the Chicago Bears so that they could let me down one last time.
Exactly, yeah.
I think that was one of my favorite quotes ever, but I'm pretty sure that every Browns fan has like their list of pallbearers that they would like at their funeral if they happen to pass before they win.
Absolutely.
So big plans for the birthday. I know it's a Thursday, but at our ages, we usually celebrate the whole week or weekend, so...
Yeah, I don't know yet. My wife has not informed me what, if anything, we are doing this evening. As a general rule, my birthdays usually involve some sort of sushi somewhere, and many Kirin Ichibans to go with that.
Oh, sushi sounds so good.
Yeah. So I suspect that's going to be at least part of the plan, but outside of that, I have been pretty much been kept in the dark, as is generally the case when my wife plans things.
Wow, well, you need to tell her to get her shit together. From you, not from me. From you. Don't tell her I said it.
I will save that until after my birthday. Maybe even after Christmas. I don't want to take my chances.
I get my phone blown up on air, and this angry wife is calling me. What did you say? No, Rob said that. I just gave him the words. Well, before I close the show, I will give out this week's Butt Fumble Award. You want to guess who it was?
By all means.
It was the team that blew a 21-7 lead with 10 minutes left in regulation.
The funny thing is, you're
here we go.
saying this as if it surprised me in the slightest that happened.
I was just saying, blame the guy that tweeted there was 10 minutes left in the game. You don't say things like that. You just don't.
I have seen the Browns blow a 2-score lead with less than 2 minutes left in the game before. So doing it with 10 minutes left doesn't surprise me in the slightest. I would have been more shocked had they won, had they not blown that lead.
Wow. You're a true Browns fan, I can tell, you know.
Does the bitterness and vile just come out naturally and dictate everything that they put me through?
Pretty much. I mean, I can tell by some of your reactions and things like that I'm like, yeah, you're a true fan. You're a true, yeah. That I wouldn't expect it any other way. To be a hopeful fan like so many other fans are, I think is just foolishness at this point for certain franchises. One being the Browns. So the fact that you're real, you know.
Yeah. Okay.
All right.
I have hope every April in the draft, and it's usually crushed by, like I said, if it's not crushed by week 8, it's a good season.
All right, well, he is Rob, and he is a great guy, a Browns fan who lives across the state from me. I'll make it over there soon, but enjoy your birthday night and your birthday weekend and tell the family I said hello.
Thank you, my friend. We'll do that.
All right, take care.
You too.
All right, and as I mentioned, it's Butt Fumble Award time. Thank you, Rob. I'm glad he picked up. That would have been bad if it was a voicemail. But what voicemail would I have left him? There's a question for you. What kind of voicemail should a podcast and radio show host leave a person that they're trying desperately to get a hold of on their birthday and they don't answer? Creative responses only, please. So for that, you can follow me at Fan Show Official on Twitter and give your reply there. Or Instagram, you can leave it in a comment, I guess, The Fan Show. Facebook.com/Fan Show Official. And then, of course, the website is thefanshow.com. You can email me, richard@thefanshow.com if you would like. And that is where you can catch all of old episodes. There is an archive on there. If you missed any, go there. Otherwise, subscribe in podcast form, iTunes, SoundCloud, and iHeartRadio. Catch replays on WBLZSports.com. Don't forget to go and order your fantasy championship belt from the good guys at UndisputedBelts.com. They are fantastic at what they do. So without further ado or any more delay, your Butt Fumble Award for Week 14 is... the Cleveland Browns. That's right. Congratulations, guys, because of the 2-score lead you had with just how many? 10 minutes left in regulation. The Green Bay Packers, led by Brett Hundley, were able to come back and have a walk-off touchdown. Not just a field goal, but a walk-off touchdown to end it in overtime, keeping your winless season alive. Congratulations, Browns. You've earned it. And that'll do it for us here on The Fan Show. I thank you all for tuning in. We'll see you next week, Tuesday night, same Fan Show time, same Fan Show place. Special thank you to my guests, including Rob, who picked up the phone. But remember, best of luck to you and yours. Go Niners, and it's all fun and games until you butt fumble. Good night, folks.
Do you remember the time that Mark Sanchez ran into his own player's butt? That was funny sports.
Thank you for having me on the show, man. I love the Fan Show.